Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And today I want to talk to you about the Holy Light and its purpose in the World of Warcraft, how it relates to the Void in certain aspects, and where I think it really comes from. Because I think one of the biggest questions that we really kind of still don't have answered for certain is where the Holy Light comes from. I mean, with the whole premise of the old gods and the void lords, we seem to know more about the force behind that power than we actually even do about the Holy Light itself. So there's a lot of different races, groups, and people who utilize the Holy Light in the WoW universe. Some of these that you're going to be very familiar with. The standout one is the Army of the Light, right? Led by Prophet Velen and Turalyon as the commander of the Army of the Light with their holy, shimmering armor. And they help us vanquish the Burning Legion on Argus. Now, that being said, that directly relates the Holy Light to the Naaru. And I would say that the Naaru kind of do propagate and spread the Holy Light more than anybody else. Now, the Naaru are interesting, though, however, because it does seem to us that they inevitably, whether by being drained of power forcefully or utilizing their power to pilot or power a ship, they do tend to return to the void, which is a little bit spooky. The question then becomes, if the Naaru are kind of the shepherds of the light, and I would say that they are, who else have they affected then, right? So they've affected the humans, the original founding of the Paladins of the Silver Hand. The 5 tenets, the 5 pillars of the Holy Light are founded off of Naaru. And it actually says that in Chronicle. A lot of people don't know that, but the human race was actually communing with the Naaru long before they ever realized that it was Naaru. So the Naaru kind of have their hand played in a lot of different situations. Now, generally this is affiliated with positives, right? The light makes you feel good. It heals you. It can heal your scars, so to speak. And it even says in Chronicle that the Naaru are benevolent by nature. They are ever benevolent. But we saw how xe'ra treated Illidan, so I question that quite greatly. If you've done the Mag'har Orc scenario to unlock them as an allied race, you very likely have seen, you must have seen when you went to alternate Draenor to recruit the Mag'har, what the light is doing to them. See, the light believes that they are destroying the land over there. But here's the thing. When you destroy land just like humans do, not saying that everything that is done is okay, because I think we take it to a bit of an extreme, obviously, but it is allowing for you to live and to strive and to become greater. And so I find it interesting that the Army of the Light, I'm going to call them over there, the Lightbound, if you will, they believe that if you are sacrificing the health of the land around you, then your own survival is not justified. There are better ways to do it. And so the Army of the Light over on alternate Draenor would try to, in certain cases, force the Mag'har under the will of the light, repeating the slogan, as we heard Velen say, and I'm pretty sure we've heard Yrel say from Warlords of Draenor, that in the light we are one. And that Army of the Light, I'm going to continue to call them over there on alternate Draenor, is led by a Naaru. Now, I want to focus a little bit more on Naaru because I think that they're a curious type of creature. Now, in Chronicle, it is said that occasionally clouds of fractured light would gather and give shape to beings of great power and potential, and they were known as the Naaru. Now, when you hear clouds of fractured light, I'm curious what comes to your mind, because what I think about is the description and the pictures even in Chronicle of the Titans appearing as like massive space, nebulae, basically giant space dust clouds, you could call them. And they were basically shimmering stars and clouds that would go through the cosmos, right? Similar to kind of how we see Sargeras appear in the sky an Argus. You can see his kind of constellation sort of in the sky, and he's like a big, like nebula cloud, sort of is what he looks like. And so I did find that curious, and I started to think to myself, man, where did the Naaru really come from? What do the Naaru stand for? What is their purpose? Because we've never been told directly where they come from. And this led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. Now, as I had mentioned previously, there are several groups in the game who utilize the holy light, right? The humans, the Draenei are probably the most prevalent ones. There are many factions and groups that do. However, those two tend to seemingly have the highest level of interaction with and mastery over the light, if you want to call it that. But then I really started thinking, and there's one other group that is above all of them who utilize the light as well, and that is the Titan Pantheon. Now, if you're not a believer that the Titan Pantheon utilizes the light, I have plenty of evidence to prove that they do. The first of which is the Boon of Agramar, which is given to you during the Argus the Unmaker fight as a buff that goes on the tank from Agramar that literally surrounds you in a circle of light and makes you basically an avatar of Agramar's power. There is also the Ilarian Sanctuary on Elunaria and Antorus the Burning Throne, where you find the essence of Eonar hiding. And that sanctuary is locked, and the doors are sealed with holy light runes. And her sanctuary is covered in these orbs that are holy light. We can see in Uldir with the beam of re-origination that they shoot at Gahun is holy light. In fact, that whole instance is covered in holy light. And it goes on and on. The Titans have been utilizing the holy light for quite some time. And then I really started to think, again, what is the purpose of the holy light? And when you start reading into the holy light in the Naaru, it seems to me that their purpose is to spread across the cosmos, spreading faith and bringing, living creatures under the influence of the light, and to protect life whenever they possibly can. It sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds like a pretty cool thing, keep things living, and that's awesome. Except I think this serves a bit more purpose in the grand scheme of things than we realize. And that is because I'm about to propose to you an idea that may or may not shock you, and that is that I believe that the Titan Pantheon are the ones who created the Naaru, the Holy Naaru. I mean, the Naaru stand for order and faith and unity. And it seems to me, especially when you read Chronicle, that it aligns very, very well with the Titans and their goal to preserve life whenever possible. Hell, in Chronicle, Eonar even reminds Sargeras, before he goes and starts the Burning Crusade, that they had sworn to protect life whenever possible. I find this a bit curious because it illustrates a pact among the Pantheon that would essentially sway their preference to keeping life alive whenever possible, right? And Eonar is the titanic embodiment of life, right? Basically the mother of all life, right? And we can see this translated down and passed down through some of the things that Eonar has created. We have Alexstrasza, the mother of dragons. We have xe'ra, the mother of dreams, as referred to by Xavius. And then we have xe'ra, the prime Naaru, mother of light. Now xe'ra's a bit creepy. Xe'ra's a bit weird. We'll talk about her in a minute, especially because of what she did to Illidan. But it seems to me that there is this premise that surrounds Eonar as the mother, right? Even in the Eonar encounter in Antorus the Burning Throne, when we're attempting to save her from the Legion, death incarnate, she calls us her children. Interestingly enough, Amun-Thul later on refers to us as children of Azeroth. So there is this idea established that Eonar is very much so tied to motherhood, and she has all of her children that are life, and Eonar would do anything that she could, as a mother would, to protect living things. However, I find this to be a bit troublesome because I do believe that it goes against the natural order of the universe. Because as much as life is incredible and it's amazing, it does have to end, right? It is a sad, inevitable fact of all living things that they will inevitably perish. Going back to the purpose of the Naaru and what they're doing, like I said, spreading the light, spreading this faith, and trying to protect living things wherever they can, as we've seen with the Draenei, I have to therein assert that the Naaru, as beings of order and light and, hope, if you would like to say that, must come from the Titans, specifically Eonar, the Lifebinder. Hell, there's even a quote from Alternate Draenor in which Velen says, "Light is life, and life is light." That is to say that they seemingly are one. And so this would make the Chronicles cosmology map incorrect. Now, I've been saying for quite some time that I believe that the cosmology map is very flawed, and I will continue to try to make new iterations of the cosmology map to show you in the future. But basically what I'm saying is that the holy light is aligned with life, and that it is something that is crafted, it is made, right? It is shaped into these crystal objects, which again, I don't think is very natural. I think it's very unsettling that the Naaru come in this crystalline form. Not only that, but the Naaru sing to you. When they speak to you, think about a doll. It's like a chime song. It sings to you in order to communicate. Ironically, Agramar was led to Azeroth and found Azeroth because he was following the Song of Life. The Song of Life. The Song of Eonar? He was led there by Life herself. That's more so for a different video. But the point is that there are a bunch of similarities between the Naaru and Eonar. So once again, I will assert that I believe that Eonar did create the Naaru. And I believe that that is why the Naaru were sent to the Draenei. And it's the same reason why the Naaru in the Atamal Crystal showed Velen that the Legion would do horrible things, and it turned Velen away from Sargeras, right? It was only because of the presence of the Naaru that Velen did not join his two brothers, Kil'jaeden and Archimonde, his comrades, in joining the Burning Legion. He decided to leave them, and he took the Naaru with them, most of them, except ones like Le'ura. Let's talk about that for a second. Le'ura was a Naaru that was in the seat of the Triumvirate in Makari on Argus, and over a long, long period of time, who knows how long, Le'ura had lost her power, and slowly the light in the Naaru had drained and left behind a dark Naaru, a Naaru that could be used as a conduit for the void to come in. This should frighten you, because that is to say that when you're spreading the Naaru, when you spread this holy light, it may inevitably also spread the void. Let me ask you a question. A lot of people have thought for some time that this game, World of Warcraft, would inevitably change into a game that was based around two factions, not Horde and Alliance, but of Light and Void. That will never happen. Never. The Alliance already has the Light Forged and the Void Elves on their faction. Why would we ever see a split where one faction became Void and one faction became Light? Because, like I said, when you spread the holy light, you're inadvertently just helping the Void anyway. So it would be counterproductive. It makes no sense to have two factions based off of a force that is literally spreading itself. Speaking on spreading itself, since we're on that note, and this is all at the top of my head. I'm not scripting this. This is just my thoughts, so I hope that you guys can bear with me through this here. I like this older speculation style. It is said in Chronicle that the Void would try to exert its influence upon a Titan that was already sleeping, and that it would give rise to an unspeakably dark creature that, in time, would consume all matter and energy in the universe and bring every mote of existence under the Void Lord's will. This is not to say that they are trying to summon in a giant void lord like Dementius, for example. That was a mishap from what we understand with the Koreshi, the Ethereals. That is not to say that it is necessarily going to give rise to a void titan either. But what is suggested is that it will bring everything under its will by spreading itself, by influencing it. But then I have to ask you the question, is that not exactly what the light is doing? Is the light not going around the cosmos, trying to protect all living things? Quite a benevolent goal, wouldn't one say? Bringing all under the light until, in the light, we are one. That's creepy. That's terrifying. It's ironic because it seems to me that the light is the one, primarily, that is trying to bring the whole universe under its will. The problem with the light is that it makes everything that it is a part of immortal, as far as naturally immortal. For example, once someone has become light forged, it's not really a problem anymore. They're bound to the Naaru. The interesting thing is that when you are going through the light forging process, as we saw with Tepartos, as part of the light forged allied race quest, you go into your own consciousness and you vanquish parts of yourself that would stray from the light. Anything to do with the Legion. And the irony in that is that you are essentially brainwashing yourself for the Naaru. You're brainwashing yourself into servitude of the light until it couldn't possibly be that you would ever serve anything else. And now some people will hear that and they will say, well, why is that such a bad thing, Pyromancer? Well, that is because, like I asserted, I believe that light, the holy light specifically, has a goal of making everything in the universe under its influence, thus trying to make everything immortal, keeping all life alive forever. I think that this is illustrated in the old God whisper that says, "The pain of flesh is fleeting. True torment lasts forever." Right? Immortality is a curse. And it's difficult to look at it in that way because we as mortal beings, some people may hear that and go, well, man, I wish I was immortal. Being immortal would be cool. Maybe for a little bit. Maybe for a bit. If everyone in the world became immortal today, do you think it would be world peace all of a sudden? Or do you think everything would descend into chaos? Immortality is not good. If you just all of a sudden became immortal yourself, you would have to watch all of your family and friends, your loved ones die. Eventually, maybe even the whole world die. And then you would be completely alone, by yourself for the rest of eternity, never being able to be released. Don't you see why it's so scary? This enacting of this will, this exertion of power, I believe, is the goal of Eonar, the Lifebinder. Hopefully now you're at least starting to see the flaws in what the light is doing. See, the light functions primarily off of blind faith, and most of the characters in the game I don't think understand really where it comes from. Most of you are probably wondering, okay, so what is it about the light that really you find, the most sketchy? What we saw xe'ra try to do to Illidan was a bit terrifying. I mean, let's talk about that. xe'ra asserts that to you, in the quest lines leading up to Antorus and leading up to retrieving Illidan's soul from the Twisting Nether and all of these things, xe'ra asserts to you that Illidan had a destiny that was forged during the great ordering of light and shadow, and xe'ra was also forged by something else. And his destiny was cast to the cosmic winds, and it found its home in a vessel on Azeroth known as Illidan's Stormrage. And in that tiny vessel, the great cycle began anew, allegedly. So someone or something shaped Illidan's destiny for him. And xe'ra, this prime Naaru, this mother of light, asserts that the prophecy, the destiny that was shaped for Illidan must be fulfilled. 1. This is not benevolent. For xe'ra to bind Illidan in light and hoist him up in the air and try to light forge him against his will, that is not benevolent. And it says even in Chronicle that the Titans themselves were benevolent. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the existence of benevolent gods is wishful thinking because I doubt that the Titans are benevolent in nature. What xe'ra was going to do to Illidan was planned a long, long time ago. The child of light and shadow, the one destined to end the age of demons, right? To end that, to defeat the Legion, who is doing what? Enacting the will of death, trying to assert dominance over life. Let's talk about that. Dominance over life. In the Argus the Unmaker fight, which is canon, please, if there's any fight that you should ever consider canon in the Warcraft universe, take the Argus the Unmaker fight as the example. In this fight, we see something that is totally horrifying when you really understand why it's a problem. And that is that life, in front of the pantheon of the gods, who are supposed to represent the order of the universe, life triumphs over death. Argus the Unmaker sucks us all into a little black hole in the center of the platform, and he swipes us with his scythe, right? He ends us. He kills us instantly. Death has asserted its dominance. Death has finally done what it is meant to do, and that is what Argus is, the Reaper. Scythe and everything. If you watch my videos, I'm sure you've heard me say that a dozen times. But then something happens that is not supposed to happen. Eonar brings us back. Now, I know that you're going to look at this and go, Pyromancer, well, that's a good thing because we're beating the Legion and all this stuff, but I'm telling you, we're dooming ourselves in the long run because now what has been allowed to happen in this fight is that in front of Aman'Thul himself, the High Father of the Pantheon, he who should stand for order moreover than anybody else, more so than anybody else, has allowed for something that goes directly against the natural order of things. Death should have dominion over life to an extent, but what life does is absolutely disorderly. She steps in and intervenes and brings us back. This is directly against the natural order of things. The irony in this is that if you go back as far as the RPG lore that was written for the tabletop RPG for Warcraft, you can read about Sargeras and why he left the Pantheon. Now, in Chronicle, it talks about the whole finding the old gods and the Void Lords by the Dreadlords and all of that. But what was written originally, which is now considered universally non-canon for some reason, even though the more that we get into the story, the further we progress, the more of the RPG lore is shown to be canon, you can read that Sargeras believed that the Pantheon had a falsified ordering of the cosmos, and that the corruption in the cosmos was the Pantheon's fault, and thus Sargeras would leave them and try to fix this, because Sargeras had, as asserted in Chronicle, always known that something about existence and something about the universe was fatally flawed, something was not right. Well, we can see in the fight with Argus that there is some type of flaw in the order, because we should never have been brought back. We should have lost that fight. Period. But if you don't yet believe that the Holy Light was crafted by the Pantheon, I'm going to try to prove it to you right now. There's a couple things that hint at this. In the Demon Hunter class order hall from Legion, there is a quest where you need to go to the Black Temple to basically confront Akama. Akama was one of Illidan's lieutenants, whom he gave basically, Illidan basically gave control of the Black Temple to Akama, and Akama betrayed Illidan. And Akama is on the top of the Black Temple, and he has sealed himself there with these barriers of holy light. And so it's up to you, the Demon Hunter player, to try to figure out how to get through the barrier. Well, in order to get through the barrier, you have to acquire a tome of arcane ways. We're hunting down an arcane tome to figure out how to destroy this barrier of light. We end up using the power of Fel to do so, ironic as that is. But that wasn't enough for me, because there's more to it than that. And in another instance of this, is an Uldir. Gahun, the beam of re-origination that comes down from the ceiling, looks like a giant beam of holy light, doesn't it? If you pay real close attention, when the beam fades, it fades into a beam of purple and white light. It turns into a beam of arcane energy, and that beam of re-origination does arcane damage to you. Not holy damage, it's arcane. That is to say that the holy light is sustained and perhaps even facilitated by the existence of the arcane of order, who we believe Aman'Thul is what Aman'Thul is a representation of. That's what the pantheon is, right? They're arcane, they're order. But for arcane and the holy light to be tied that directly together, I think is frightening. Again, the Naaru are crystals. They're orderly, right? They're this strange prismatic light that often gives off such a blindingly bright light that even things like fallen spirits, like Una, for example, the little dead Draenei girl from the hidden questline in Legion, she asserts that Adal's light is too bright for her. God, it's too bright. Even Una doesn't want to go near a light that bright. I want you to look at the runes above xe'ra's head. Now, they are clearly not written in English, but I do think that the characters used are supposed to be representative of English letters. And to me, I see the letters O-E-R-A-N, which is an anagram for the word Eonar. And when you overlay the voice audio from the Eonar fight in which we help her, and you overlay the audio from xe'ra speaking to Illidan, you notice something a little bit creepy.
For you, stand with me.
Your redemption.
Together, we can drive back this onslaught and deprive Sargeras of victory.
And embrace the light's power.
Time is short.
I've traded
The
my
enemy closes
freedom
in.
for power before.
Approach me and stand ready, my children. The final battle is at hand.
Must be fulfilled.
Begone, intruders! Back to your master!
The light will forge you.
Feel the potency of life!
Not yours to
Fear
take.
its power!
Light will heal your scars.
Minions of darkness, you will know the might of a titan!
Is your destiny.
My destiny!
Is nigh, champions! Dispatch their remaining forces. I will see to their vessel myself.
I find that to be very unsettling. They sound very, very similar. And I'm sorry, but I don't see many ways that xe'ra could know about how Illidan's destiny was forged, because those who forge are the Titans. I find it very hard to believe that the holy light could have came from, or is the design of, anything other than Eonar, the Lifebinder, at this point, because it's the most potent force that stopped Sargeras to stop the will of death. It's something that we trust blindly that comes from the Naaru. The Naaru seem to embody the same principles of the Titans. They value the same things, spread faith and light and preserve life whenever possible. And it's just, I think that there's something really, really bad coming up. Really bad. And I think that this spells something very bad for us, because at the end of the day, as Illidan says, only we can save ourselves. And at this point, we don't even know what we're fighting against. We don't even see it coming. I think that it was always written that we would inevitably fight the light. Always. The light and void, they're essentially synonymous with one another. There will never be light and void factions. That will never happen. But what will happen is what's going on in WoW right now, where the factions are splitting not into light and void, but into life and death. And The Holy Light is very much related to the arcane. The cosmology map and chronicle, I believe, is wrong. And we're in for some trouble. We're in trouble. Because at this point, we only have a couple allies left. And it's hard for people to look at it this way, but some of the only allies that we have left are probably going to be beings like N'Zoth and xe'ra. Because some of the other ones like Illidan and even Sargeras are now gone. And it's going to be up to us to try to save ourselves. I just hope that we can find a way to deal with Aenar before it's too late. And people have been asking me, who do you think the final boss of BFA is going to be? Do you think it'll be N'Zoth? I don't, personally. I think that it's going to be something to do with life or light. But we'll have to see. I can save that for another video. So if you've made it all the way to the end of this movie, I appreciate it very much. If you wouldn't mind, leave a like on the video and leave a comment letting me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already. I do videos like this. Not quite like this one, but I do lore, speculation videos and stuff like that pretty often. And I'd love to share more of that with you guys. Share this video around. Talk about it with your friends. Whatever the case may be. And that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys very much. Stay awesome, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace!